On to the second debate topic here. This is going to be a tough one as well. To come up for answers, maybe, unless you guys have thought about it. Redfall, I'm sure you've heard the bad news. It is capped at 30 FPS at launch.
On Xbox. So,
Correct.
it is your job to fix this PR disaster. What could they add to the game that would have fans running to it for day one release? And of course, FPS is excluded. You cannot use, they'll add 60 frames per second. No. Nay. Cicero, you chose to go second this episode.
I did.
Mike, go ahead.
Oh, he's second the whole episode?
That's what I asked.
So I'm first literally the whole episode.
That's how it goes.
What the I did not hear that.
What the
fun?
This is not fun. This is not fun. Oh my goodness. Can I Uno reverse that decision?
Key sword. Go ahead.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Redfall. It seems like this game can never get ahead, right? There's always something. There's that awesome showcase at the Developer Direct. There was, hands-on previews, which, by the way, I think they played those at 30 FPS.
No, it's PC 60. I think.
Oh, it was on PC 60. Yeah, so which is also frustrating. So and those impressions were pretty good. But then to hear this news again, I just think Redfall is. I heard several people describe it this past week. Both, I believe, Greg Miller on Kind of Funny Games Daily, and then I think Ryan McCaffrey listened to that show because he said the same analogy. It seems like Redfall and Xbox keep stepping on pitchforks, stepping on shovels and just hitting themselves in the head. And so what can fix this? Obviously, you excluded getting the 60 FPS at launch as one of our arguments. And so I thought outside the box. And I thought of the type of game that Redfall is, and specifically its themes and its characters. And it's all vampire related. And so then I thought, what is one of the best video game franchises that stars a vampire? And so I started thinking about potentially having Castlevania Day One crossover with Redfall, to have some Castlevania weapons in there, but also to have maybe a section in the open world that is Castlevania themed, that has the big bad of Dracula, right? And I just think that if you have that sort of connection to the broader scope, it's not going to be a side scroller, but maybe it does have some of the weapons and some of the enemy types potentially from Castlevania.
All right, Cicero.
Well, I think Mike and I are thinking about it in similar ways, that we add some DLC to the game to make the game better, but we're thinking about it differently because the game releases in early May. What happens in early May? We have some holidays. We have May the 4th, Disney tie-in. Maybe we could get some Star Wars witches into the game. But no. That's a lot of licensing. That's a lot of work. Instead, we could do Cinco de Mayo, because it's also right around Cinco de Mayo. Well, what would you do with that? That's, you're going to have a Mexican-themed party in one of your stages? No. What else happens in early May? The holiest of days, the most special of days, Mother's Day. And for Mother's Day, we can have Mother's Day DLC with all of the terrible mothers in the world in the game. We could have Mary, Queen of Scots. We could have the white bride singing lady that's from Mexican lore. I forget her name. But, she wails by the lakes. There are so many.
Lorona?
My Sharona. I don't remember the names, but there are lots of. We could have Norman Bates's mom. And there are so many disgusting mothers of our history and of our folklore that we can add to the game as enemies that need to be vanquished.
All right. Getting real on me, Cicero. Mike, why Castlevania?
So I'm just gonna go for the jugular. The question specifically says, what could they add to the game to have fans running to it? I don't think Mother DLC is going to create fans running to it. In fact, Mother's Day is supposed to be a celebratory day, a momentous day, rather. And I'm not going to go play Redfall and destroy some moms. I'm going to go spend some time with my wife, and also call my mom and tell her Happy Mother's Day, and maybe my grandma too. So yeah, fans aren't going to be running for this, especially since it's not on day one. I am arguing for something that, let's be real here, it's probably not going to happen, but there is a realm of possibility, right? This is an intellectual property in Castlevania that has characters, that has lore that could fit Redfall, I would assume. Simon Belmont is one of the main characters. He could be a DLC character that you can get on day one, that maybe he has some more technological weapons. Maybe he has a melee focused weapon with his whip and stuff like that. Maybe that is a thing. But also, I think the angle that maybe Justin wouldn't have expected me to go here was that Konami is so willing to just send their IPs to places and for them to use them. Case in point, Dead Cells. Dead Cells just did a recent Castlevania themed expansion, and I was hearing some things on the podcast, on some podcasts I listened to, about like interviews and like the story behind it. And the Dead Cells creator was like, yeah, I just had to send an email to Konami and was like, hey, we want to do a Castlevania themed thing. And Konami was like, sure, why not? And so, like, yeah, of course, it could be an easy implementation of some of the Castlevania stuff and lore. It is an open world, and you can add a castle, I would assume, in the vein of the Castlevania castle, right? So I mean, I don't know. I just think that this could be a very, very cool crossover.
So Mike says something about my DLC not being day one because Mother's Day happens to be a week and a half after the release of the game. That's ridiculous. Why wouldn't it be day one DLC, sir? Right? Like, why would it come out on Mother's Day? These are things that would happen immediately. We're talking about something that they could actually implement in time that would make sense. They can sit and talk about how and educate their fans on who these terrible moms are and say that they are in the game. So, so the Mexican mom, the weeping mother is what she's called. They can talk about what happens. So we've already seen a character like this in games like Left 4 Dead, where you hear someone crying in the distance, and if you get closer to her, it turns out to be this monster who's trying to kill you, and you've got to get away, right? But she's incredibly strong. These are the types of things that they can add to the game that they have the ability to add, and they can add value to gamers. So gamers that were maybe on the fence, right? The gamers that are going to play are going to play. The gamers that they're trying to reach are the ones that are on the fence right now, right? The ones that are not going to play are probably not going to play. The ones that are like, oh man, it's 60 FPS? Nah, I'm definitely not playing. But the people that are like, it's 60 FPS? I don't know. You need something for them to latch onto that would make them come back. Yes, you're right. I do agree that Castlevania is something that would be really cool, that would make people that maybe weren't interested more interested. But is it doable? Probably not, because they got to get the licensing done, right? This is, they're two different companies. Konami is, they're on a whole nother plane. But these stories and these legends, these fables of these terrible moms are public domain. They can create those characters right away and add them to the game. And if we're talking about what the PR team can do, the PR team can educate the players on these characters and why they're going to be important to the game and make sense for the lore that is already existing within Redfall.
Go ahead, Mike.
I think your argument for the licensing thing is null and void, specifically since in the argument prior I said how willing Konami is wanting to send some of their IP to other people, so just like the Dead Cells case. So I think the licensing thing is going to be fine. And I sort of bring it back to the question again. Sure, whatever. I will give you that. I will give you that argument that yes, the Mother's Day DLC can be day one. Sure, whatever. It doesn't have to be on Mother's Day. But what's going to make you run to play a vampire-themed first-person shooter? Castlevania-related content or Mother's Day-related content? Honestly, it's Castlevania, and I think by a landslide. I'm not looking to go to Redfall to understand the history of these bad mothers. This isn't like a MLB The Show 23 where I go to the Negro League section and want to find out the history of these awesome Negro League players before MLB. I'm not going to go to Redfall to learn about these mothers. I'll just Google them.
All right, Cicero. Last
one.
one.
Wow! He really tried to stomp his foot down on that one. Okay. Well, you're right. Castlevania in the imaginary world, Castlevania probably would be more enticing. It has more cachet than these evil mothers. But what could they implement? What can they actually do? Can they get the licensing? Yeah, sure. If Konami is willing to give them some Castlevania stuff, assets to implement into the game, will they have time to implement that kind of stuff into the game in a way that makes sense before the May 2nd release date? I mean, we've got a few weeks. If they're listening to us right now, there's no way that they could do that before May 2nd. But with my thing, even if they started in April 2nd, with my thing, we're talking 3 or 4 characters that they can handpick and choose and say, this is why they make sense in our universe. We're not merging some other universe and bringing some other things and trying to fit how that works. We can say legitimately that this DLC that you're getting day one from us makes sense with these particular characters in our universe. And you could run into these bosses that weren't in the game initially, but we added them as a way of saying sorry and a very happy Mother's Day to your mothers. Say hi to your mothers for us, right? With that.
I like that tie-in. Cicero, have you ever seen the movie Stay Alive? Just asking.
No.
It's like the video game brought to real life. Everyone's in the game movie. It's like a horror movie.
Not the Ryan Reynolds movie.
No, I don't think so.
No.
There was a mother you could have mentioned that might have swayed me, which was Elizabeth Bathory. If you know who she was.
No.
She was the female Dracula, a story behind the original Dracula, which could have tied in really well.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
But Mike, yes, you won with the landslide. Castlevania just works. It does. And it's IP that a lot of people love, and isn't that hard to get that license. Like you said, they are handing it out, and Konami's available to do that. So even if they don't have Simon, a level themed around Dracula's castle, weapons, or, it would work out great. That's a point for Mike on that one. With Castlevania being added to Redfall.
Mike from Test Your Might here. Thanks for listening to this debate topic from the latest episode of Test Your Might. If you'd like to listen to the full podcast, check out the links below. Please subscribe to the channel over to my left, and check out this playlist to my left as well. Bye.